part number 2 of this week's episode of Student of the Gun Radio. And thank you for joining us for this part. Now, Jared, tell me something. Something. All right, congratulations. Is it okay to just to buy food or to order food and not pay for it?
Well, in some people's mind, but I'm a moral person, so I'm going to say no.
Well, we're going to get into that here in just a little bit. We're going to talk about whether or not it's okay to order food or goods and services and not pay for them because you're morally outraged. But before we get into that, if you guys are smart, if you're hip, if you're people that are down with Student of the Gun, you may have had a moment to pause at part 1 and you said, whoa, hey, you guys didn't have your Excess Sites good guy of the week in part 1. No, we decided to put it in part 2 this week because, quite frankly, there was so much stuff in part 1 that we couldn't fit it in there. But we're going to fit it in this one. Now, before we get started, we want to talk about the Brownells promo code. That's Papa Echo Victor, PEV. Go to brownells.com between now and August 30th. Order $50 or more and use the promo code, and you'll get $10 off your total order. Very, very cool. We've got the SWAT Fuel promo code. That's SOTG 2014. And you'll get 20% off your total order. So go to SWATfuel.com, and you can check out their 40 cal multivitamins, their 9mm, 9mm plus P workout supplements you take right before you're going to work out and get that little extra oomph going. Now, and don't forget Colt. Colt are the makers of the LE901 rifle. We had a lot of fun this summer shooting the Colt LE901 in 308 and 5.56, and that material is going to be coming up real soon on Student of the Gun TV. Now, Jared, we've got a kind of a good topic. It's one that you want to talk about if you've got kids, and it's the Excess Sites Good Guy of the Week. Jared, tell us who our Good Guy of the Week is. It's a mystery person.
It is a mystery person. They posted the question in the forum, and that's forums.studentofthegun.com. You can go communicate with your fellow people.
Gun people.
Or
Students.
Anti-gun people, but there are no anti-gun people there yet. Anyway, so the handle for this person that asked the question on the forum was just the, which is THE. So if you ask this question, let me know. And I need you to send your address, your shirt size, and your phone number to Jared, JARRAD, at studentofthegun.com. And the question is, when and how should I approach? Daddy has a pistol, and I have it to keep you safe.
Good question. Yeah, this is, how do we broach the subject of guns with our kids? And if you're a ninny or one of the hoplophobes, what you do is you come out in public and you say, well, I've got kids and I would never have guns in my home because guns are bad and guns kill. But electricity doesn't kill, and poison doesn't kill, and water doesn't kill, and gravity doesn't kill, and cars don't kill. Well, you mean they all do? Yeah, they all do. So let's go ahead and for the responsible adults in the audience, let's talk about this for a second. Well, number one, when did you teach your kids, or when were your kids able to understand the concept that the stove is hot and we don't put our hands on it? Because if we do, it's going to hurt us. I don't know, 2, 3 years old. When were you able to convince your kids that, hey, the wall socket there has electricity in it, and if you put your finger or some object into the wall socket, it's going to hurt you, and you need to not do that, Jared?
It bizzes you.
Yeah, if you take a key and you stick it in there at your grandpa's house, it will bizz you, and then it'll give you a little shock, and hopefully it won't electrocute you and kill you. But at what point in time do you teach your kids basic stuff, the look both ways before crossing the street? If they can get that part, if they can understand the concept of fire is hot, the stove is hot, we don't put our hands up there. If they can understand that, then they should be able to understand that the tools that Daddy uses, the pistol that Daddy carries, is to keep you safe. And if you want to keep it super simple, walk into the, and we use this a lot, but it's a perfect analogy. If you're sitting down with your little kindergartner or what have you, and you go into the kitchen and you got that red fire extinguisher hanging on the wall within reach of the stove, right? And why do you do that? Well, because sometimes things happen and we want to be able to take care of it. So you say, you see that red thing right there on the wall? Yeah, what is it? Well, it's a fire extinguisher. Well, why is it there? Well, in case there's a fire and Daddy can grab it and put the fire out and and keep the house from burning down, save you. Oh, okay. They nod their little heads north and south. Okay. And talk about seatbelts. If you want to do that, say when we get in the car, you always have to sit in your car seat with your seatbelt on. Why is that? Well, just in case. That's right, just in case there's a crash. Now, do we put the seatbelts in the car because Mommy and Daddy are bad drivers? Well, some of them might be, but we're not going to admit that. Well, no. Why do we put them in there? Well, because someone else might run into our car, and we can't stop someone else from running into our car because we're out there on the road, we're doing our thing, and sometimes people smash into you. And how do we, protect ourselves from a car crash? Well, we do that by putting you in your little car seat, wearing seatbelts and stuff. And so the kids are like, okay, that makes sense. Well, sometimes in the world, there are bad people, and bad people try to hurt you. I know it makes you sad, but it's true. Just like people might run into you in a car, bad people might try and hurt you. They might try and hurt Mommy or Daddy. And so Daddy has this pistol right here, this gun, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous like fire. It's dangerous like electricity. Now, is fire a good thing? Yes, because we cook our food with it. Is electricity a good thing? Yes, it is, because, we use it to watch TV and all that good jazz. Well, same thing with a gun. If it's used properly, it can be used to protect you and your brothers and sisters and your mommy and your daddy. That's what I would say. That's how I would break it down for a kindergartner, a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, 6-year-old. You say, when do we introduce the kids to it? When the kid is smart enough to be taught that, hey, don't play with the stove, don't stick your finger in the light socket, knives are sharp and we don't play with knives because they're sharp. That if they can figure that out, they can understand the whole, okay, Daddy has a gun because it keeps us safe. And the caveat that I would say, hey, Jared, what do you do to strangers? Remember that? Zachary? When the kids were all young, my kids have always grown up with me being a professional gun carrier, whether it was as a police officer or as a professional bodyguard or what have you. So ever since Jared was wee little, and all the kids, I've always been a gun carrier in some form or fashion. Sometimes I carried a gun with a uniform on and you could see it. Sometimes I carried it in plain clothes and it was concealed and you couldn't see it. But the point is Daddy has always had a gun. So when the kids are little, and especially when you're a police officer, a lot of you cops out there, you tell your kids, you don't advertise to strangers that Daddy has guns or there are guns in the house or what have you. And that's not something that we talk about to strangers because strangers it's none of their business. And we had, discussions with all the kids, with Jared first and then my daughter and then my other son. And we would tell them, look, we don't talk about what Daddy does to strangers. And I know that was messed up English. We don't talk about what Daddy does in front of strangers or around strangers, not to strangers. So Zach says, he was probably kindergarten or whatever. We reminded him, we don't talk about what Daddy does to strangers. And Zach says, what do you do to strangers?
That's funny.
Okay, we don't talk about Daddy's job around strangers. Okay. So that would be that's how I would deal with that. I guess it's a good question, and it's something that as responsible adults, as mature adults, that we need to address that. We don't just pretend like it doesn't happen, or we don't try and shelter our kids from the fact that guns exist because it's silly, it's immature.
Dallin has he's got 3 kids, 2 of which are 3 and 4 years old, or actually 4 and 5 now. I know they're getting old.
Or are they 6 and 4?
4 and 5.
Oh, they're 4 and 5? Okay.
Yeah. and both of them, it was like probably about a year ago, but the older one, she was 4 at the time, and Dallin and I both carry, obviously, and so we were putting our holsters on and putting the guns in the holsters, and the older one, her name's Serenity, she came in the room and she goes, "Is that to protect us from the bad guys?" And I was like, "Dallin, you're doing a good job."
That's right. That's to protect us from the bad guys. It's absolutely what that is. They don't need to learn about the Second Amendment or any of that. They just need to know that that's to protect us from the bad guys. Now, speaking of bad guys, and speaking of crazy people, and speaking of, we don't have a theme for this, Jared. I don't know. We used the vagination update in the last episode. But this one, this story right here, this is the lead story for this episode. It's anti-gun dine and dash. We've got Professor Jack Weinstein, and we were thinking about calling this episode "Once Upon a Weinstein," but we didn't know if the folks over at Family Guy would give us permission, and if we'd get a nasty letter from Seth MacFarlane's from his attorneys. So we decided not to do that. But you hip Family Guy people will get the reference. But Jack Russell, that's his name. His name's Jack Russell Weinstein, and he's a professor of psychology. Is that not correct? Or philosophy? Philosophy. You know what you can do with a degree in philosophy, Jared?
What?
You can think deep thoughts about unemployment. Yeah, I stole that one from Bruce Lee. But he's a professor of philosophy at the University of North Dakota, or a university in North Dakota. I don't know if it's UND or not. But he wrote a little. Oh, he likes to do YouTube videos, and he likes to blog and what have you. And he threw out the idea that in order to combat open carry activists, because that's what you need to do. You need to combat them, because they're just wrong. The fact that they have guns is just wrong, and they shouldn't be allowed to. So and now, all right, hold it. Do we need to redo Jared? Do we need to redo the whole explanation of open carry versus being a moron?
No, I think we've hit on that.
All right, we've got that. So if you're a hip student of the gun, you understand that being a grandstanding jackass is not what it's all about. So we'll just go with that. But old Professor Jack here has decided that he's got a great idea for responding to and combating these open carry activists. And so what he did is he went on and he made himself a little YouTube video and wrote a little article about how this is the way you're supposed to do it. All of you, you liberal weenie douche nozzles. If you go somewhere and you see someone open carrying wherever you are, whether it's a grocery store or a restaurant or a movie theater or wherever it happens to be, what you need to do is immediately leave. Just stop everything you're doing and leave. If you're in the middle of eating your dinner, you've ordered food, you sat down, they delivered it, it's right there in front of you, and you see someone open carrying a gun, you need to get up and leave. Just run out of the restaurant. Just get out. If you got a shopping cart full of groceries and you're up at the checkout and you see someone, just stop what you're doing and run out. And what that's going to do, according to Jack, is that's going to force businesses to forbid people from carrying guns. That's going to force them into putting up the plastic idiot signs that will stop people from open carrying, because we know that open carrying is wrong and it scares people. And Jack took a little bit. Apparently, Jack took some heat from this because someone mentioned to Jack, they're like, "Well, Jack, what you're doing is the open carry people, whether you agree with them or you don't agree with them, they're not breaking the law. But what you're doing there, Jack, is or Jack Russell, is you're advocating that the response to people not breaking the law is for people to break the law, specifically the dine and dash. I've got food on the table. We ordered food. It's sitting in front of us. We're going to get up and we're going to leave the restaurant without paying the bill." And so Jack's like, oh, no. That's not what I meant. I was not advocating for you to break the law. Well, Jack he responds to his video or his blog or whatever the heck it was with this one right here. And Jared's going to go ahead and pull up clip 1, and we're going to see the mindset of Professor Jack Russell here.
What's the problem? There are gun carry activists, particularly in Texas, who want to go places like Target and restaurant and carry loaded guns, often high-powered automatic weapons. And then there are people who are scared of it.
According to Professor Jack Russell here, the problem is that we have people, especially in Texas, who want to go to Target and the grocery stores and so forth, and they're carrying high-powered automatic weapons. What? Hang on a sec there, Dr. Jack. So your problem with them is that and then he goes, they're loaded guns, and there are people who are scared of them. So if you are a liberal weenie douchebag and you're easily frightened, I have to curtail my activities because you may be frightened. And now what do we know, educated students of the gun? What do we call people who see guns and have an irrational fear of them? What do we call them, Jared?
Hoplophobic.
Hoplophobes. That's like, and you guys know what a phobia is, right? Arachnophobia and claustrophobia and all kinds of phobias. What is a phobia? It is an irrational fear, right? Or an unwarranted fear. And so what we have to do, what Jack is saying here is if you are one of these people, if you are a hoplophobe, if you suffer from hoplophobia, and you're afraid that people in Texas are going to walk into the store with high-powered automatic weapons or loaded guns. I love how liberals and weenies and idiots on the outside of the gun world, they like to throw the word loaded in there. Like, it's not just a gun, it's a loaded gun. So if it wasn't loaded, would it be okay? Ask him, and you should ask him that. If you have a liberal weenie douchebag coworker or something, and they throw the word loaded gun out, throw it back at him and say, so what are you saying? If it wasn't loaded, then it wouldn't bother you? And they'd probably be like, well, yeah, it would still bother me because it shouldn't even be there. Shut up, idiot. So according to Jack Russell, the problem is that people want to carry high-powered automatic weapons. Do we even need to get into the automatic weapons thing?
No, we'll just let that resonate.
No, because we know that these people are completely and totally ignorant, and they don't understand how to use the language. But has that ever stopped them before? No, it never has. So we've got that. We know. So the problem, according to Jack, is that there are hoplophobes out there that may see a gun and be scared. And so what Jack says in clip number 2, he's going to tell them what to do if they see this. Go ahead and hit it with clip number 2 there, Jared.
If you're afraid for your life, you just get up and leave. Maybe the restaurant pays the bill themselves, maybe the activists pay the bill. But in reality, if you're genuinely concerned that someone is going to shoot you, your spouse, and your kids, it makes no sense to pay the bill.
All right, now we've got the advice from Dr. Jack, and he says, if you are afraid for your life, just leave. Let's talk about that for a second. Well, and then he says, maybe the restaurant will pay, maybe the activist will pay. But it makes no sense if you're in fear for your life to stay and pay the bill. Well, all right, I'm down with you there. If you're legitimately in fear for your life, you wouldn't hang around and pay the bill, would you, Jared? I mean, if you're at the Luby's cafeteria or the Burger King or you name it, how many places have we been to or read stories where bad guys, the Waffle House or whatever. So, I mean, the dude in the Waffle House is sitting at the counter and a guy comes in and he's robbing the place and instead of paying the bill, I mean, I'm guessing he probably paid the bill after he shot the dude. But Yeah, I mean, if you legitimately feel that you're in fear for your life, now this is where the train leaves the tracks there, Dr. Jack. Being a hoplophobe, being infected with a phobia, an irrational fear of an object, I'm pretty sure that if you put that to the legal challenge, would not justify breaking the law. What do you think, Jared? Do you think that can I walk into a restaurant, order food, sit down, and I see somebody that's wearing like a blue sweater, and I'm afraid of the color blue, so I get up and I run out of the restaurant, and when they nab me and say, "Hey, you didn't pay for your food, douche," I say, "Well, I'm afraid of people in blue sweaters."
I would propose that if, like you said, if it's a legitimate fear of your life, then that situation would be okay. So if you can check off the 3 things that you need to actually defend your life with deadly force, then you would also in that instance you would also be I guess you wouldn't be wrong to get up and leave.
Right. So let's say if you could say that the person that you're afraid of had the ability, the opportunity, and the intent to do deadly force harm to you, then you would be okay. But seeing someone with a gun, is that a demonstration of intent?
And another thing is that if nobody is breaking the law, then you don't have permission to break the law.
Well, come on, Jared. I mean, I'm afraid. I see a gun. It makes me scared. I peed down my leg. Well, I think part of it is the reason they're getting up and leaving the tables is because they've just soiled their pants and they can't finish their meal because, their pants have been soiled.
And they don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah, they peed down.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that could be. They peed a little bit or they shat themselves. Can you say shat on the radio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess Jack Russell fits in with the liberal mindset here. Just pee on yourself and everything will be fine.
That's true. You just pee on yourself and everything will be okay. So, yeah, and he tries to wiggle out of this. He's like, I would never advocate someone, we're not talking about. And he goes, and it's from not a practical or realistic standpoint. It's from a philosophical standpoint.
So basically, what he's saying is you're too dumb to understand.
Yeah, well, I got a question for you, Jack. Let's say you're sitting in your favorite elitist coffee house, and 2 assholes walk in with guns, and they decide that today's the day they're going to take out their angst on the world, and they're going to rob people, and then they may or not murder you, just depending on their mood for the day. Are you going to have a philosophical discussion with them about the moral ambiguity of carrying a gun? Maybe they might walk in with high-powered automatic weapons that are fully loaded. And one thing that we didn't in this clip from Dr. Jack here, Professor Jack or whatever he wants to be called, is it's like 5 minutes long, and during that he said it's some people don't want to dine in a restaurant where other people are fully armed.
To go to another restaurant.
Well, now hang on. Would it be okay if they're partially armed as opposed to fully armed? I don't know.
So he wants to cut off one arm of the people. That's not very nice.
That isn't very nice. So we thought you guys would appreciate that. What do we say about the other side? They're essentially mentally unstable. And did you know, Jared, that the sexual and was it retardation? The quote from Freud.
Yeah.
That I looked it up and people they're like, he never said that. It was an implication from a book that he wrote and so forth. But
yeah, I found a source of it, but I didn't have the actual source in my hand, so
right.
I don't know what it was actually from.
Yeah, either. What does it say? Emotional and sexual retardation.
Yeah, fear of weapons is a sign of emotional and sexual retardation.
I'm gonna, and if Freud didn't say it, we should just go ahead and say it. And just tag it student of the gun.
There we go.
Professor Paul says, But if they're really looking for somebody, you know, and it's not the quote that messes people up so much. It's the fact that they're like, he never said that. Like he implied it in his writings, but it didn't say that exact quote. So you can't say that's a quote from him. Okay. It'd be a quote from me. I don't care. All right. Moving on. And we're going to move on. We're going to drive on, and we're going to hit you with a new update theme.
And even now, every time I dream, I hear the men and the monkeys in the jungle scream. Drive on.
Well, I don't know if I should be embarrassed at myself or at my audience for, you know, when we do the Go Team moments, a lot of times we say drive on, or we talk about drive on the show. And it wasn't until recently that I was hip to the fact that Johnny Cash, the Man in Black, did a song called Drive On. And we thought that was really appropriate for our Go Team moments or our Drive On moments. So thank you, Johnny Cash, the Man in Black, and may you rest in peace. Now, this first story comes to us from Pennsylvania. That's right, Pennsylvania. And it's from 69news.com, WFMZ. It says Southeastern Regional News, Pennsylvania. Police, man justified in fatal shooting of intruder. Daryl Evans shot while attempting to rob a man in a Norristown home. This is a man who shot and killed another man during a home invasion robbery in Montgomery County was justified, officials said Monday. It happened around 11:30 a.m. on the 28th of July at the 1100 block of Willow Street in Norristown. It says Daryl Marquise, I guess it's Marquise, it's Quis, Evans, 22, was shot and killed by a resident inside the home during a robbery, officials said. It said It says resident, and this is a quote from the investigators. It says the resident acted reasonably and with proper justification when he lawfully stood his ground in his home and used deadly force against Daryl Marquise Evans during the home invasion, said Montgomery County District Attorney Risa Furman. And what we want to say to you up in Pennsylvania is drive on and a Go Team moment. And they also reinforce it. It says the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania provide that citizens in our community may stand their ground and defend themselves inside of their homes when faced with an armed robber who illegally entered his home. The resident was justified in using deadly force. And that's about all she wrote. And the good news is that Mr. Daryl Marquise Evans, age 22, who had a budding career as a home invader, felon, career scumbag, is now going to be worm food. But you know what the sad news is, Jared?
What?
Is they're going to go ahead and add his name to the death clock.
Yep.
You know, when the next liberal hippie politician, Pukeface, wants to quote statistics, wants to quote handgun statistics or shooting statistics, they'll throw in people like Daryl Marquise Evans, who was a home invader, armed burglar, and was shot by a home invader. And they'll say, see, that was a death by handgun. Well, guess what? You break into people's homes and you try and rob them, you invade their homes, and you're going to get shot for your efforts, and you deserve to get shot for your efforts, and I'm not going to cry or shed a tear for you. Now, the next story, we're going to continue on with our drive-on moment, and this one is kind of a combination of a Go Team moment and a 911 fail. Now, this comes to us from toprightnews.com, but it is a story out of Florida. And the title of this story says, when thieves broke in, this grandma grabbed her gun, then was stunned at what 911 told her to do. And this is from Gina Gassini of Top Right News reports, this 80-year-old Tampa grandma was resting in her new hip upstairs after recent surgery when she heard a commotion downstairs. She realized it wasn't her husband who was out playing bridge. Of course he was out playing bridge. That's what you do. So she grabbed her gun and ran to the top of the stairs. Says, I didn't know what was going on in my mind, but honestly, all I wanted to do was get my gun, said the grandma. And so she gets on the phone and she dials 911. And this is what she said. She goes, when I called 911, she, as in the 911 operator, kept saying, put the gun down, put the gun down. And I said, no, I'll put the gun down when I see the police. So apparently she hollered down there that she had called the police and she had the gun. And the intruders, apparently they fled the home before she had to confront them. So, rock on, win for her. But what we want to say is, what the F is going on with these 911 people or these operators? And I actually had someone recently who was saying about the dispatchers, and we were talking about law enforcement. They're like, oh, they're dispatchers. They're not part of the police department. Well, kind of they are. Who hires these people? Who do they work for? I know where most jurisdictions I've ever lived in, the last jurisdiction I lived in Ohio, all the 911 dispatch was run out of the sheriff's department, and they all worked for the sheriff's department, and they wore little black shirts that had sheriff's department, and they had little badges on. So, I mean, I don't know who the dispatchers work for if they don't work for the police department. But people are like, oh, you can't hold police responsible for 911 dispatchers do. But folks, come on. What? I guess my big question is how are they training these people? Now, if you're a 911 operator and you like the show, don't write me letters and say, hey. But let's face facts. When we've got people on 911 telling the homeowner, who's no kidding, in fear for their life because their home has been broken into. We got an 80-year-old grandmother who's upstairs on the phone with you. She tells you that someone has broken into her house, and your response as the 911 dispatcher is tell the homeowner to put the gun down. Really? I guess that's easy for you to say when you're sitting your fat butt in your freaking dispatch chair in an air-conditioned office somewhere, and you got a panicked grandmother who doesn't know what's going on. So you tell her the solution is put the gun down. I think if it hasn't been called for already, that the sheriff's department or whoever's in charge of this dispatch center, they might need to sit down their dispatchers and re-educate them. What do you think, Jared?
I think that's a great idea. We should definitely re-educate the dispatchers because they kind of set up the scenario that the police expect to roll up on.
Yeah, it's a good question or a good response. We were talking about that earlier. There's a situation and about this guy got shot in a Walmart by the police in Ohio, and turned out that he was holding a pellet gun, not an airsoft gun. It was a Crosman 177 pellet gun, and they got pictures of it. And there's a lot of things that played into that story. One is we had hoplophobia played into that story. Someone saw him standing in the sporting goods aisle, in the toy gun aisle or the BB gun aisle or whatever. You've been to Walmart, you know the freaking aisle. Standing there, talking on the phone, holding this gun. So they called 911, said there's a man with a gun in Walmart. And so the 911 dispatch gets on, and we don't have the tapes, okay? But you have to say, well, if you are what is the logical question for the 911 dispatch? What is he doing? Well, he's standing there talking on the phone. Okay. Has he shot anyone? Is he shooting? Is he pointing? Is he threatening people with the gun? What is he doing? And we read the story and it said, no, he's standing there holding it and he's pointing it in the air. Okay. Now, the cops, here's what's going on with the cops is, are they getting from the dispatch, they're getting man with gun Walmart. Is that what they're getting? Because if all they're getting is there's a man with a gun, I've got a complainant on the line, 911, there's a man with a gun threatening customers, threatening people. So when they show up, what are they thinking? Are they thinking there's a dude standing in the BB gun aisle holding a BB gun? No. With all they're getting information-wise, and they're thinking, it's like Las Vegas. They're like, crap, this is it. This is that moment. It's like Las Vegas. We've got a psycho killer in Walmart. And so they're amped up. They're all amped up. They come bursting in, and there's been a lot of, I suppose we're talking about the story now, but there's reports that say that they fired their guns and then yelled, drop it. Or did they say, drop it, pow, 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 pow. I don't know. But it turned out that not only did one person die, the guy who was holding the BB gun, he died. But when you got cops show up in Walmart, they run down the aisle, they discharge their guns. What do people do? Well, they freak out and panic, and they start fleeing from the store. And according to one story, a 37-year-old woman was fleeing in a panic from the store and collapsed and died. They said she had a medical condition, and it sent her into an attack or what have you. So we actually had 2 people that died in this situation. Well, number one, the reason we were hesitant to talk about it is not because we're worried about calling out bad procedure, but it's kind of a hinky story. You're like, if it was you, all right, Jared, or me, or anybody else in the audience, would you walk into the Walmart aisle and it said that he opened the box, took the gun out of the box, and was standing there and holding it, talking on the phone? Would you do that?
Well, he could be inspecting the gun just to make sure it wasn't broken or something.
Well, yeah, he could have been. He could have been.
It's not like he was pointing it at people. He
Well,
might have just been looking down.
But the thing is, though, Jared,
something.
if you say you were going to buy something and you wanted to make sure that it was good before you bought it, would you just on your own open up? Like when you go to Walmart, you wanted to see if it, let's say, any product at all. Would you walk over to an area where they had VCRs or TVs or whatever? Cut the box open, pull the thing out, and stand there in the aisle and inspect it?
No, I would. But if those boxes aren't taped shut, though, they just have a little.
I'm pretty sure they tape them shut.
I think they just have the little flippy. I don't really know.
Whatever, but I mean, let's just say it's a product. When you're at Walmart, do you open the box, pull the product out, and stand there and examine it, or do you ask like a clerk to do it or something?
Yeah.
So first of all, let's use some freaking sense. But we're back into that situation where is possession of something that they're like, whoa, it looked like a real gun. And that's what everyone's tying they're hitching their wagons to that now. Well, it may have been a BB gun, but it looked real. It looked real. Okay, we got that. I'm willing to go down that road with you. So anyone who's holding an object that looks like a gun, do we automatically de facto kill them? If they're not wearing a blue polyester uniform and they're holding an object that looks like a gun, do we automatically de facto kill that person? I don't know, because that's what I'm getting out of this. That's what we're getting out of a lot of these stories where it turns out it was a BB gun, it was an airsoft gun, it was something that wasn't really a gun. It looked like it, but it wasn't. And that's what we're getting from, what was Michigan? Was it Michigan? Yeah, the kid with the airsoft pistol in Michigan who had it in his hand or had it in his belt or something, wasn't like robbing somebody, but he was in possession of something that looked like a gun. The kid in California there was no 911, shots fired, robbery in progress. It was just, we see someone holding an object that we think is a gun, so we kill them. And what we need to ask ourselves, and I know this is a hinky situation, and there's a lot of different reports. The people that, of course, like the guy are like, he was just standing there holding it. He wasn't menacing people. He wasn't pointing it at. He wasn't robbing them or what have you. And then they're like, well, the law enforcement, they're like, well, they yelled drop it, and he didn't drop it, so they leveled him. But my question is, did they yell drop it, pow, pow, pow? Because you kind of have to give them a second there. Now, if they yelled drop it, 1001, 1002, 1003, and he still stood there, okay, it's a situational thing. And I'm not going to try and play, armchair.
There's got to be video.
That's the thing, is there's got to be video. But the thing is, there may not be the audio. I mean, you see him pointing the guns at the guy with the gun.
You could tell that I'm sure you'd be able to see when he realized that there's cops pointing guns at him.
Yeah, I mean, what did he do?
What he tried to do?
Did he level the gun? Did he freeze? What did he do? And people will do that. They'll like freeze. And so they froze. And now, what do you do? I don't know.
And going back to what the dispatcher says to the police.
Yeah,
I understand that they would be amped up if they got a call with man with gun in Walmart, but you can't discount you can't discount the fact that they still have the ability to make decisions, and they still have the ability to say, does this guy have the ability, opportunity, and intent?
What's going on? I mean, is there a robbery in progress? Is there a shooting in progress? Is there what is going on? Well, obviously it was a pellet gun. It was a BB gun, so it was never actually discharged. It wasn't fired, so there was no shots fired. So what do we have? We essentially have a human being holding an object that looks like a gun. So the big question is we see that, are we training our law enforcement officers? If you see anyone who's not dressed like you and they're holding an object that looks like a gun, you kill them. Because apparently in the United States of America today, holding an object that looks like a gun is justification to be killed. I don't know. What's the intent? What was the demonstrated intent to exercise deadly force? You tell me. I want to know. Look at the situation, And I'm not saying that the guy in the situation was innocent, as apparently he did some stupid stuff that led up to his death, but at the same time, is being stupid or being, I don't know, making a bad decision. So we'll never know. But folks, it's scary. And what got the whole ball in motion, Jared? What got everything rolling?
Somebody called
some woman, a hoplophobe.
Yeah.
Somebody saw somebody with something that looked like a gun and panicked and hit the alarm button. Now, this, ladies and gentlemen, that right there, the 911, there's someone holding a gun, send the police immediately. If you read the story of this, it's like they talked to the lady who called the police. And she said, I was telling people, I saw this guy, and they would get near the aisle, and I would tell them, don't go down there. Don't go. Get away from here. Get away from here. Right? What is that? It's why do you have that mentality? What's that meant? Would you, if you were in like all right, let's face it, if you're in the BB gun aisle of Walmart and you see the guy holding the BB gun, right? Are you going to panic and call 911?
No.
Why not?
Well, because unless he's acting erratically, and then in that point in time, they don't sell real scars in Walmart.
Yeah, you mean they don't sell SCAR rifles,
yeah.
FN SCAR rifles in Walmart?
So
no.
I know that at that point in time, I would have the ability to take care of it
Bingo.
if it was an issue.
BINGO. What Jared just said right there is, if you were there and you saw someone holding a gun, you're like, okay, he's holding something that looks like a gun. Let me take 1001, 1002. Let's examine the situation and figure out what exactly is going on here. Because let's face it, if you're a citizen, an armed citizen, can you just hammer people that are holding guns? You see someone that's holding an object that looks like a gun, you whip out your Roscoe and you freaking hammer them. And they're like, oh, that was an airsoft gun, and you just hammered a 15-year-old kid. Do you get to
I don't get a get out of jail free card.
You don't get a get out of jail free card? Well, what do you mean? Here's the point, ladies and gentlemen. Jared said, and we didn't actually even set this up, but
we weren't even planning on talking about this story.
What you've got there is you have someone, if you have the ability to deal with the situation, if it were to go south, you don't automatically panic because you're like, I'm trained, I'm armed, I know what I'm doing. If this looks like it's going to turn sour, I'm gonna handle it. Now, what do we have on the opposite side? We have the state-sponsored or the state-approved hoplophobia. What are they teaching your kids in public schools? Guns are bad. Guns are evil. You should never have guns. And if you see someone with a gun, tell someone. See something, tell something. See something, tell someone, whatever. See something, say something. And so do you believe that the state approves of this 911 hoplophobia, this gun phobia? They do. That's exactly the reaction that the anti-gun statists, the people that think you should be disarmed, that is exactly the hysteria that they're teaching, that they're preaching, that they're searching for. Is we want people, if you see someone with anything that looks like a gun, We want you to panic and call 911 because guns are bad and only agents of the state should have guns. Think about it, folks. Are we training citizens to be little, little tattletales, little Nazis, whatever? Like, well, if something's going wrong, Paul, you should call 911. Yeah, you should. If something really legitimately is going wrong. But what are we teaching people? We're teaching people that anyone who possesses an object, what is our good friend Professor Jack Russell teaching people? If you see someone with a gun, you should be scared for your life and flee the restaurant, flee the grocery store, flee wherever you're at. Just flee because you saw someone with a gun. Not because they were doing anything, not because they were breaking the law, because you saw a gun.
So his first reaction in times of crisis would be to run,
to flee,
instead of he should move to France.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what you do. But man, we're already on 45.
We'll do one more if you can make it quick.
Okay, well, we did the grandma thing. We did the we didn't even mean to do that one, but it just kind of happened. You want to hit them with a psychological terrorism update?
Yeah.
All right. All right, for all you young ones out there that don't know about Another Brick in the Wall or the Wall album from Pink Floyd, and growing up in my generation, I couldn't even fathom someone not knowing about Another Brick in the Wall or the movie The Wall, but Jared's never even seen it. Have you, Jared?
No.
Yeah, he has no idea. So, but we thought that would be our new Slavery Indoctrination Center update, our public school update. And this story comes to us. Lots of you have sent us this story. It's been all over the place during the last week. But, school's back in the United States of America because we are insane people. And we've decided that our kids need to go back into school 10 months out of the year. I've got a good buddy who's actually a teacher. We were talking about this, and I said, what is the deal with kids going back to school on like August 4th or 5th? Or when I was a kid, you went back to school the first Monday or the first after Labor Day. Matter of fact, I think we used to go back to school on like Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that. But you had Labor Day weekend, and then you went back to school. And then you went until the first week of June, and then you got out of school, and you did that. What is the deal with this putting kids back into school on August 2nd and 3rd and 4th? It's insanity. But whatever. We've got a kid goes back to school and says, Houston schools discuss child's Nerf gun suspension. Well, we've got an update to this, but the kid goes back to school. He's a fourth grader, little Ramsey McDonald of Warren Robins. He says, goes back to school, and the teacher says, here's your assignment. Bring in your favorite toy, and we're going to talk about it. And this was the thing that's going to kind of get all the kids to talk to each other because that's what you have to do. Anyway, so the kid comes home, he tells his dad, and he says, hey, we got to bring in our favorite toy, and I'm going to take my iPod or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But the kid says, well, his plastic Nerf gun, his little blue and orange and green plastic Nerf gun is one of his favorite toys. So the dad doesn't think anything about it. He doesn't realize the kid's going to take the Nerf gun to school, but the kid does. And they freak out. And you're like, well, I'm hip to student of the gun, and I know what's going on in America, so makes sense. So the school, rather than just saying, hey, little Johnny, little Billy, little, what's the kid's name, little Ramsey, oh, you shouldn't bring Nerf guns to school. Just put it in your backpack and take it home. No. We can't do that. We're going to give the child a 3-day suspension for violating the school's weapons policy. That's right. A Nerf gun now violates the school's weapons policy because it was, quote, viewed as a weapon. As a dangerous item.
What is a weapon?
Something that can be used to cause physical harm to someone else.
Yeah, it's. I'm going to get the Merriam-Webster.com dictionary right now, and it says something such as a gun, knife, club, or bomb that is used for fighting or attacking someone or for defending yourself when someone is attacking you.
So I'm pretty sure.
Would you choose a Nerf gun?
No, I wouldn't. But I'm not a liberal weenie douchebag, and I don't work for the public school system either. So,
and the second definition says something such as a skill, idea, or tool that is used to win a contest or achieve something. So, if you want to be a winner in school, you can't use an idea or your mind as a weapon because they're forbidden in schools.
I use my words as a weapon.
Yeah.
I rock the world with a microphone. But here we go. Folks, I'm sorry, but let's just call them what they are. They're not public schools. They're slavery indoctrination centers. Your kids go there so they can teach your kids to be good little conformists, good little slaves, never question authority, do exactly as you're told. Guns are bad. Anyone who has a gun is bad. Anything that looks or appears to be like a gun is bad, and you shouldn't have it, little Jimmy. That's exactly what it is. And if you don't think that, you're naive, and you need to get your head out of your butts. But it's insanity, it's crap, and it's not going to stop until you wrest control of your – now, this leads us back into the Common Core thing. Until you wrest control of your local school district from the social liberal do-gooder scumbags. Now, and here's the deal: the statists, they understand that right now in the United States, if enough angry parents got involved and said, "No, we're done with this statist bullcrap. We're done with this state-sponsored brainwashing, with this indoctrination, and we're going to take control of our schools," well, they could legitimately do it. Well, how do you take control of the schools and remove the authority from the parents, from the community? Well, you drop a little thing in there called the federally mandated Common Core, and you take it away from the locals and you put the feds in charge of it. What do you think? I don't know. Well, ladies and gentlemen and children of all ages, wow, that was a fast hour, Jared. Was that a crazy fast hour?
Yeah, it was.
All right. Well, here we are. We're back there again at that time where we thank Excess Sights, Brownells, Colt, and SWAT Fuel for being our sponsors. We want to remind you to watch the TV show. Watch Student of the Gun TV on Wilderness TV, TV Gone Wild. On the Hunt Channel, Channel 266. That's 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday night. You can download the mobile app for your phone, your Android phone, your iPad, your iPhone, all that jazz. It's free. It costs you nothing. Go ahead and do it. And you can get the radio show. You can get the social media and get everything. Now, coming up in the bonus third hour, and that's for you guys who are the special subscribers, and we've also got a special subscriber bonus for you guys this week. So if you subscribe to the third hour, not only will you get the third hour, but you're going to get a special bonus as well. Now, we already did that. We gave, what was it, the cover versus concealment PDF, the special report. We gave that to them, 2 weeks ago. We're going to give you another special report, a special bonus for you guys, just for being our third hour participants. And in the third hour, we're going to talk about firearms myths and woman crushes home invaders nuts. So if you want to hear all about that, make sure you're tuning in. Now, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, everyone out there in the listening audience, I want you to take this with you. Remember, you are a beginner once, but you should indeed be a student for life.